You're in the same boat. Nobody's experienced playoff preparations in July, and then the Stanley Cup Playoffs in August. Where you are watching from today, we say hello. Hope you are safe. I hope you are healthy. And if you have a question or a comment, please post it on your social media channel of your choice, and we will do our best to answer those questions via Dan Duva and myself. We also want to tell you that there's some news that has come out in the last couple of hours regarding the Vegas Golden Knights schedule for Phase 4 and the return to play. The exhibition game, the one exhibition game the Golden Knights will play, will take place in Edmonton on July 30th. That will be the final day of exhibition play for that hub city in Edmonton, and the Golden Knights will face Arizona. 7 o'clock Pacific time is the start time for that one. And then the 3 round-robin games are slated for August 3rd against Dallas. That start time has been established for 3:30 against the Dallas Stars, that time Pacific. And then the start times for August 6th, Thursday, against the St. Louis Blues, and Saturday, August 8th, against Colorado. The final round-robin contest for the Vegas Golden Knights has yet to be determined. But the first 2 outings, you can circle on your calendar. We know dates, we know times, and we know when we're going to be back to work on the television and radio side of things.
Can you believe it? I've got in my hands here, Darren, my notes from the last time that the Golden Knights played a game, which was coincidentally in Edmonton, where the Golden Knights will play their next game. It was way back on Monday, March the 9th against the Oilers, and it was in the midst of what was to be 5 consecutive road games. It ended up just being those 3 before the pause. But impressive wins against Calgary and Edmonton. And I still...
2 wins, by the way, that made the difference between Vegas being in to a top 4 position in the conference, right, and the Edmonton Oilers being involved in a best-of-5 series.
Oh, critical. And of course, it was at the point of the season where the Golden Knights were playing their best hockey. In a weird paradox, they would probably have gone forward without Max Pacioretty, without Mark Stone, and maybe Alex Tuch for a little while longer. 3 regulars, important players on the team that were not going to be available. And that, of course, has been discussed at length. But when you think about all of these games that are going to be in Edmonton, it's interesting when you think about the Golden Knights having just been there. That was the last time that they played a game all the way back. Can you believe it? March the 9th. I had to look just to make sure that that was accurate. March the 9th. But I've got the old lineup card, and then I've got the new blank lineup card, and I just can't wait to fill it out and talk about getting ready for those broadcasts. And it's instead of months or weeks, we're counting days.
Training camp underway. This is day 3. And via the Next Gen camera, you take a look at what's happening on Sheet A. They will go through the practice with the coaches here. Ryan McGill, part of the group that's running this practice, and then come together. Not sure how many scrimmage time that they'll get today, or whether they'll do some flow drills like they did yesterday and working on changing on the fly and up and down the ice. It's going to be really interesting to watch how Pete DeBoer structures these practices with 13 days of training camp, how many times that they'll work off the ice only, or just trying to pace themselves through that. I want to say hi to Gabby in Germany, Leslie in Kelowna, Bert in Bavaria, and Mike in Portland. Portland,
wow.
Maine?
Which Portland?
That's a good point, because we have an East Coast guy in Dan and a Western guy in myself. So I'm wondering, is it Oregon or is it Maine?
Portland has also got a great Portland, Oregon. Okay, I was going to say Portland, Maine has a terrific minor league hockey history with the old Maine Mariners and the Portland Pirates, and now you've got a team in the ECHL, which has been around for a couple of years, but both great cities. I can't say that I've spent much time in Portland, Oregon, though. So I'll vouch for the Lobster in Portland, Maine.
Yeah, 2 great cities with incredible hockey history.
Yes.
You're absolutely right about that. So we'll look forward to what happens in the back half of practice and watch the drills here, zero in on a few players. We'll also just let you enjoy via the Next Gen camera some of the sights and the sounds as you just eavesdrop on practice a little bit.
And one of the things, Darren, that we saw a tight shot of Robin Leonard between the pipes, and that to me will be among the more interesting things, not only once the games begin, but also during these days in Phase 3, how Robin Leonard, you see on the screen, sharp new mask, looking good. Look at those pads with the Golden Knight. That's awesome.
Unveiled them yesterday.
Yes. You're thinking about in a normal season when you'd have 2 goalies on a roster, and Marc-Andre Fleury has been the guy, no doubt about it, since the very beginning of this franchise. But with Robin Lehner having been acquired, and remember, Robin Lehner has played all of 3 games for the Golden Knights. It feels like he's been around forever because he was acquired in February.
I can't believe he's only played 3 games in 4.5 months, though.
Right? You know? and of course, no one beside Marc-Andre Fleury has ever appeared in a playoff game for the Vegas Golden Knights. And how they'll get those guys practice time, game time. And Oscar Danska's here, too, and we heard Kelly McCrimmon talk about the decision to go with 3 goalies. You could carry 5, but they'll carry 3. And Oscar Dansk, of course, having signed a contract extension on June 11th. But I just think that Mike Rosati, who, of course, took over as the day-to-day goalie coach for the Knights late in this regular season, it seems to me that there's some importance there in figuring out who's going to get more reps in practice. Because normally during the season, you've got 2 goalies in practice scenarios. Here you've got 3, making sure that those guys get the reps, and then, of course, how you structure going into the exhibition game with Arizona, and then how much importance you place on the round-robin games. And from what Pete DeBoer said, it sounds like they'll alternate to start and kind of see who's hot and who's not.
Yeah, reading into what Pete said has become a full-time job around the Las Vegas Valley. 2 great goaltenders, 2 starting goaltenders, they'll both play.
And you also wonder how much matchups will come into it if one particular goalie has a better history against a particular team, whether it's a career-long or just recent history. We just talked about those last couple of games that the Knights played with Robin Lehner having been acquired. It was a straight swap every other game. We didn't know how long that would last, and Pete DeBoer wasn't looking into the future too far. He said, right now, we're going alternating every other game. Perhaps that would have kind of veered off had the rest of the regular season been played. There were 11 games left when the NHL pause occurred, but they alternated those last 6 games after Lehner was acquired, and really the last game that Lehner played was his weakest. It was the game against Calgary on the road. Vegas ended up winning, but he gave up 3 goals on 22 shots. The team bailed him out and scored 5 goals. Whereas the previous games, the shutout against the Devils and a 4-2 win against his old club in the Buffalo Sabres. Meanwhile, Marc-Andre Fleury, he had an interesting back and forth where his month of January was not good, 3-4-1, rebounded with a terrific February at 7-2-1. And then you look at those last games. He won in Edmonton, we mentioned earlier, 3-2 in overtime, and gave up just 2 goals in that game. So what all of that means way back from March, I don't know, other than, as you said, Darren, kind of reading into the mind of Pete DeBoer, who has said he makes the call on who will be the goalie. Gerard Gallant deferred to Dave Pryor. Pete DeBoer has made it quite clear he's deferring to no one. He's going to decide who the goalie will be on a day-to-day basis. And we also look back at his recent history as the head coach of the San Jose Sharks against the Golden Knights in the playoffs last year. Vegas takes the series lead 3-1. You're thinking they've got to get Martin Jones out of there, put Aaron Dell in. Pete DeBoer went with his gut and said, I'm sticking with Martin Jones. And Martin Jones managed to get them through that series and, of course, onto the conference final. So Pete DeBoer is going to go with his gut, and he's going to tell us what he thinks, and he's not going to defer to anybody when it comes to who's going to start in goal.
One of the great unique parts about this training camp bulletin, being able to observe practice the way we are, and you are watching on your specific stream, is how a practice works, and how fast it is, how much the coaches are changing up the drills, and just working on different things. It's a really interesting opportunity.
I remember being in Ottawa for the first time with Pete DeBoer as coach and showed up. There was the day before the game and wasn't even on the ice. But then the next day, you're looking at what kind of drills are the team going to take part in, how will Pete change things just a little bit, and sitting with Shane Knighty, of course. And Shane, as a defenseman in his playing days, is looking specifically at, okay, what are the defensemen going to do in Pete DeBoer's drills? And we watched, I think it was Nate Schmidt, fly on a breakout. Nate was in his own zone, and then all of a sudden he just made a beeline for the opposing net. And that was something we had not seen before. And I also wonder how much, whether it's Nate Schmidt, Shea Theodore, the guys who are the more offensive-minded defensemen for the Golden Knights, the willingness to jump in, to take a chance, to have the green light, if there's a tangible correlation between some of those drills, some of that effect from Pete DeBoer tweaking things, to what we saw, especially from Shea Theodore in the final weeks of the regular season. That's fun, and you get a little glimpse, you get a preview of that by watching some of those drills. So whenever I see Shea Theodore flying up the ice, I always flash back to those first practices that Pete DeBoer held, where he was showing the guys, this is what I want you to do on the breakout.
Pete DeBoer working with Ryan McGill on sheet A. They've changed it up a little bit. It was Pete and Ryan Craig to start the week, so even they're flip-flopping a little bit. And Mike Rosati, I noticed he joined sheet A after what I assume is some time on sheet B. So that's the great setup here at City National Arena as coaches can bounce back and forth. Questions coming in. Thank you for firing these off to us. Stephanie asks, who do you think will be the toughest team to beat in the round robin? Dan.
St. Louis is a hard team to not pick. The Golden Knights have played the Blues in some pretty exciting games. The games that the Golden Knights have won have all been in overtime when you go back over the course of a few years, including 2 overtime wins this year. St. Louis Blues are the reigning Stanley Cup champions. They also were playing some very good hockey in the time leading up to the NHL pause. If you were to look at perhaps the 3 hottest teams going into the break, Philadelphia probably number 1, Vegas probably number 2, St. Louis might have been the 3rd hottest team. They were playing, and they had maybe just slightly tailed off right before the break, but just before the break, they were, I think they might have, was it an 8-game win streak? They had a long win streak just days before the break. They also get Vladimir Tarasenko back. That's, I think.
And reports are that he's great.
Yeah, and that's an interesting dynamic because of how much time he's missed this year, but also what they accomplished last year. And in a playoff scenario, not a regular season, it's not attrition over the course of the long haul, it's pedal to the floor night after night. I'm eager to see how Tarasenko will perform given all the success the Blues have had without him. And he has been one of their go-to guys for a long time. Not so much. Ryan O'Reilly's taken those reins.
Power play is where Tarasenko really impacts, and we know St. Louis has a great man advantage as well. Colorado's a team that intrigues me on the question about toughest round-robin opponent. Not to overlook Dallas, but Colorado's played at really 60%, 70% all year. Nathan McKinnon, who's a finalist for the Pearson Award, was by far and away their top point producer, almost double the second top point producer on the Colorado Avalanche, and just what they will be able to do at full strength and their speed. That's going to be an intriguing matchup.
And it just seems that with every game that they play, they figure out how to utilize the talent that they have, because they've got it, but they've given the Golden Knights some fits, with the exception of, say, the 7-0 shutout way back in October of 2017, just the games this year. The Golden Knights against the Avalanche lost 6-1 and 7-3. You're giving up 13 goals to a team in 2 games? That is a bad sign. So that's why it's an interesting question, depending on how you pose it. Which team is the best versus which one poses the greatest threat? And I think you're right, Darren. To me, in terms of the matchup, the Avalanche have given the Knights some problems.
Another question, have they announced what the broadcast options for the upcoming games will be? Not yet. We do know that our broadcast will be calling it off of a monitor. Have you ever done that before?
I have. I haven't done NHL hockey off of a monitor. I would say that the closest I've done to hockey off of a monitor, because I've done other sports off of a monitor, but hockey, I'll tell you this. How about this one, Darren?
What have you done off a monitor? I'm just curious.
I've done lacrosse off a monitor.
Okay, why?
It was back in the college days, I guess. Yeah. And I'll tell you this one. In 2014, there was a game in the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, New York, where the Syracuse University football and basketball teams play. They don't have ice. It's not a hockey facility. But the minor league team in Syracuse, New York, the Syracuse Crunch, Tampa Bay Lightning affiliate for whom I was working, decided they were going to stage a quote-unquote outdoor game in this dome stadium. So they had to build an ice rink, just like you were to build it, say, in the middle of a football field. And rather than being at a center ice position or even a rinkside position to do the play-by-play, my play-by-play position was at the 50-yard line of the football field. But the hockey rink was situated perpendicular, as if it were the basketball court. So I was so far away. There were 30,715 people in this Carrier Dome for a hockey game. I had the worst seat in the house, and it was broadcast on the NHL Network. So rather than trying to look way off into the distance, hundreds and hundreds of feet away, I spent most of the broadcast turned around with my back to the rink, looking at an HD TV screen and calling it off the monitor. So I was in the arena, but I watched very little of it with my own two eyes.
You know, when you describe it that way, without all the explanation, that makes no sense at all, right?
Yeah. No, it was a great experience. Jonathan Marchessault played in that game, and I think he scored a goal, too.
Next Gen Camera providing your live looks at practice on this day 3 of Phase 3 of the Vegas Golden Knights workout. We will take you down to ice level as they work through this initial stages of this Wednesday practice. And then we're anticipating a flood, and then the two groups, the other group working on Rink B, and this group will come together for full practice and more game simulation drills. But we'll just let you eavesdrop on what's happening. Pete DeBoer at the whiteboard and instructing his troops on what to expect and then what they'll go through for the next drill.
someone maybe wants to see on their phone what it looks like, I can try to do that real quick, but it looks fine on video. But it looks the same as you.
Hope you're enjoying day 3 of the Vegas Golden Knights training camp 2.0. A lot to fit in as we broadcast in the middle of July from City National Arena, getting ready for the 2020 Stanley Cup Playoffs. Yeah, you're watching by the Next Gen Cam. And just a little bit of an example of the more detailed work that Pete DeBoer is putting in as each practice goes on from Monday to today.
Yeah, and you're seeing 5-on-5 hockey out there right now, and you're starting in the offensive zone here. And it's interesting because you're seeing matchups of some regular guys. Tonight's probably the top line, and Pacioretty, Carlson, and Stone. Those are the guys wearing white. You can see Stone's hair, as Darren pointed out earlier. So you got Stone, Carlson, and Pacioretty there. And the guys in the gold jerseys are not guys that you will expect to see, but they scored a goal a few moments ago that we saw. Was Reed Duke, I believe, Darren, who put it in past Robin Leonard. Duke with Patrick Brown and Peyton Krebs. Those are the three guys in the yellow jerseys. Gold jerseys could look very different than that. And I think the defensemen who were out there were McNabb and Schmidt. The other defensive pair would be Nick Hague and Jake Bischoff. All the defensemen wear gray jerseys, so it's harder to distinguish which pair is which. But then the guys in the maroon jerseys, Alex Tuck, Chandler Stevenson, and Nick Waugh. That's who you're seeing right now on the ice, and Robin Leonard between the pipes.
Some down low work on both protecting the puck and defending, so getting both sides of it on that front for Pete DeBoer and his coaching staff. When they wrap up this portion of the workout, they'll flood the ice and return, and the group working on sheet B will come over, and we'll see a bit of a scrimmage here at City National Rink.
So it'll be back and forth hockey, not just drills, a scrimmage. Wow, I guess I should have my lineup card ready for that. We'll look forward to that. Boy, and then you wonder, then you see the different things that have been addressed here versus what has been addressed over on the other side of the ice, and, how much of those things are artificially inserted into the scrimmages versus how open is it, how much you're just trying to get into the flow.
I saw a bit of that yesterday,
games.
that just artificial. It looked like a scrimmage, but when you saw all the changing and there was some structure to it.
Yeah, and then, there's a point where structure from a coaching staff, drills, assignments, that's stuff that needs to be addressed, and you can trust Pete DeBoer and the staff are doing all of that. But there's another element to this where the players, many of whom have been on the ice in the small group setting, groups too small to play scrimmages, now all of a sudden, a few days into phase 3 in the team-wide practices, you can play 5-on-5 normal hockey and just play. Sure, the coaches want them to have some of these drills and strategies in mind, but just to go out there and play the game. And that's why we use the word play, after all. So it looks like they're starting off, Darren. It looks like.
The practice portion of this day 3 is complete. They'll flood and get ready for a bit of a scrimmage. Taking your questions on Twitch and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. Send us in your comments where you're watching from today as we continue on in this Training Camp 2.0. We will be here every day with the Training Camp Bulletin, that the players are out there skating, to make sure that that you are up to date, to bring you the very latest. How is Krebs looking is a question that we've received.
I'd like to see more of them. I mentioned just a few moments ago, Krebs with Patrick Brown and Reed Duke, the guys who were in the yellow jerseys that you saw, and it's hard to take too much out of a player in a drill setting, but I think what you're most cognizant of would be the health. With the Achilles injuries, that, of all injuries for a hockey player to sustain, to then trust getting back on the ice, how to handle that, not only the physical strain of getting to 100%, but mentally. You know that if it doesn't go well, if that Achilles can't support what you need to do to perform at a high level, how far can your career go? And
is he
Krebs,
past that because of the 60 points in 38 games with Winnipeg?
And that's where you wonder, like, now that you're in this setting and you've had time off. I mean, the numbers, this year, and he's got playmaking numbers. He scores some goals, but his assists were off the charts with the Winnipeg Ice, formerly the Kootenay Ice. I wonder if it's in this setting with the time away, that it's that many months. Like, this is, Darren, when they would normally be having development camp around now. So the young players who it wouldn't be rookie camp yet. That wouldn't be until later. But this is when you'd have development camp, the development camp. The guys who had been drafted in June all pretty much join the prospects for a development camp. So that kind of time frame is not strange. It's just that I wonder that there's been so much time off for Peyton since that season.
From the season. But he said yesterday he hasn't taken a day off from working out since the Western Hockey League campaign ended.
And now he's doing it with Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, and William Karlsson as his opponents. That's, if you're 18 years old and you're in the WHL, great, but if all of a sudden you're trying to perform and those are the guys that you're playing against, that's where, his relationship with Mark Stone and living at the Stone household for an extended period of time, you wonder how much that helps the mental strain of it. But, hey, he's 19 years old.
Also had a chance to skate with some NHLers in Winnipeg when rinks started opening up in Canada. That helped his confidence as well. and he is an uber talented guy.
Oh, my gosh.
The hands are unbelievable. Check in on Twitch from Oslo, Norway.
Oh, yes.
And Mitchell on Facebook from Stonehenge. VGK Worldwide. The audience continues to grow. This is outstanding. Glad you're here with us. And please send us your comments, your favorite player, what you're looking forward to most, and just your excitement level as we go towards the return of play and Phase 4 when the team departs for Edmonton on July 26th, and then the exhibition game against the Arizona Coyotes. Like what the National Hockey League did. And I don't know whether they consulted the managers or not, but we're playing neutral site games in Edmonton and Toronto, and those exhibition games, those 12 exhibition games that the National Hockey League sent out yesterday, are all involving geographic rivals, and it's just brilliant on a marketing standpoint, and so anticipatory when you look at just from a hockey perspective. It's an exhibition game, but the Rangers and Islanders, Bolts and Panthers, and Vegas is going to play Arizona.
You go down the list, and of course the rivals for the Golden Knights, you'd probably say in the first couple of years, were the Kings and the Sharks. Neither of those teams are participating in the postseason this year. Arizona is, and I think that there was probably some thought going into the first season. Arizona, Vegas, teams from the desert, close in proximity, and we weren't sure how well the Golden Knights would perform in their inaugural season, that maybe there'd be a rivalry between Arizona and Vegas. Didn't really turn out that way, but boy, it's fun to see when you have those kinds of matchups. And if you're a casual hockey fan and you see a Wednesday night rivalry type of game, you might tune in for that one just to get revved up a little bit more. Normally in the preseason, 6-7 games, and they're almost always teams in a close geographical range. So the Knights will play the Kings a couple of times, maybe the Ducks. The first exhibition game, in fact, was in Vancouver. But when they're all in the same place, Darren, you can have any matchup you want within your conference. So I think that it wasn't arbitrary to select some of these divisional matchups that are rivalries to get the blood boiling as quick as they can get it.
You know, more than half the teams in this 2014 field have question marks about who the number one goaltender is going to be. Arizona is one of those clubs. A lot of talk about the Vegas Golden Knights and what their goaltending situation is going to look at going towards the round robin and then into the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And Pete DeBoer addressed this in his media availability this week and just said, we have two number one goaltenders. They'll both play. Marc-Andre Fleury hasn't practiced yet this week. Pete was optimistic that we'll see him by the end of the week and confident that he's going to have that 1-2 system and option going towards the round robin.
And we'll see if that plays out in terms of the exhibition game, who gets to start that one, or do you have a split? Do you have two goalies play a portion of that exhibition game? And then, as we talked about earlier, the round robin, those games are more important than an exhibition, but they're also not elimination games. Vegas can't get knocked out in the round robin, so how much value does Pete DeBoer place on winning that round robin and getting the top seed? Because you look at the other 8 teams who are playing in those best-of-5 series, well, it could be a heck of a crapshoot right there, and you might not necessarily be playing a poorer team if you get the high seed. It might work against you. So I wonder how much Pete DeBoer will look at the round robin and say, hey, we've got to put our best goalie, our hottest goalie. I think he's still going to be in a discovery phase at that point, assuming that everybody's healthy. But just in that exhibition game, I'll be interested to see if Pete goes with one goalie the whole way. I would lean towards splitting it. Sometimes you see during the under 10 timeout in the second period, there will be a goalie change so you can get a guy for half a game. And then, you certainly don't want to think about it, but the possibility of a goaltender injury to Fleury or Leonard, you want Oscar Dansk to get some game action too, because who knows? You want to have some trust in Oscar that he's at least a little bit fresh. He's shaken the rust off.
He has been in Las Vegas the entire pause, which has been great, and skated during the entire Phase 2. So that is also awesome news.
Yeah, no, and so many of these guys have been local, and City National Arena is, for a lot of these guys, they're not in the car 10 minutes, and they can get here, and so many of them have been spending time in Las Vegas, and that's not necessarily the case for teams in other cities. that are larger cities, and guys don't spend their off seasons in the cities in which they play. A little bit different perhaps for some of the latest additions to the Golden Knights, Nick Cousins, Alec Martinez, Robin Lehner, of course, but for the guys who have been here to have this facility is just tremendous.
The players from Rink B are making their way over to Rink A. The flood is complete. We'll have a scrimmage coming up for you, and we'll stay with the live stream through this training camp bulletin on day 3 this Wednesday. Want to wish Burn to Live 50 on Twitch a happy birthday. Is he 50 or is that just his handle? Their handle. Just the handle. Okay, Burn to Live 50. Twitch, because it was 50. That's a milestone. And question from Facebook. Do you think they'll rest some of the playoff players in the exhibition game or pretty much play what they're going to do for the playoffs and the round robin?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wonder that too, because you have a larger roster. When you think about it in a normal postseason scenario, the team is carrying what they call black aces, guys who are prospects or minor leaguers whose seasons would not be continuing. They join the varsity, so to speak, but they're not practicing at the same time necessarily. You might practice in shifts. Those guys aren't necessarily traveling for away playoff games. This is an entirely different dynamic. Everyone will be in Edmonton, but especially to start, I'd imagine ice will be at a premium. So you can't monopolize a practice facility and have 2 practice sessions, the game players and the non-game players. So I think that will be part of the decision. You can't have a practice with 30 guys on the ice during a playoff series. That would not be normal.
My intel and what I've gleaned from various conversations is they will do what they traditionally do in the playoffs. Your main group practices and the taxi squad practices separate. But you're right, with the ice being at a premium, maybe the taxi squad comes in for the end of practice. And as far as the exhibition game, you've been around the National Hockey League long enough to know that the final exhibition game of a traditional preseason is when nobody plays. You dress your minimum and you try and get out through without injury. This is going to be a little bit different because guys are going to want to get out there in a game situation against another team and be able to play, but you still have to be conscious of the health factor.
And I was looking through some of my lineups from the broadcast we had way back in September and October of 2019, and who is in, who is out, which guys might make the team. Remember, the discussion was which defensemen will make the roster. And somebody is not going to be on the opening day lineup that we think should be. What happened was injuries. Alex Tuck injured. Cody Eakin injured. Things happen in that last exhibition game, and you're right, the coaches are just trying to make sure that everybody gets through unscathed. And, the intensity you would expect would be there because it's the first game. It's not like a regular exhibition schedule where there's 7 preseason games. There's just one here. So I would have the injury concern in mind simply because it has happened to the Golden Knights each of the last couple of years where somebody has been hurt during that last exhibition game. And normally it's in the past couple of years it's worked out because there have been so many players vying for spots. That's not a concern here. You just want your team to be healthy so that you can be at 100% going into that first playoff game in the round robin.
Another question from the stream. Who do you feel are the strongest VGK D pairing right now? And that's a really good question because they have really 2 really strong pairs.
Well, Braden McNabb and Nate Schmidt has been the go-to defensive pair through the Golden Knights' history. They haven't played every single game together. There was a period of time during year 2 where Shea Theodore and Nate Schmidt swapped spots, but that didn't last for the entirety of the second half of the season. It seemed to be more of a trial. But you add Alec Martinez to the picture, and, we have said so much about what Alec can do. His career with the Kings has been outstanding, and he's done a lot of good things since coming to the Golden Knights, but perhaps the most important thing was allowing Shea Theodore to make the most of his own ability. It's hard to put your finger on exactly how or when, but it seems like Shea has been freed up to try more things with the reliability of, a perennial, go-to defenseman, reliable guy like Alec Martinez. And Alec has also chipped in offensively too. So I think it would depend on the situation. If you're talking about Vegas has a 1-goal lead, it's late in the third period, you're going to want Schmidt and McNabb on the ice. But if, let's say it's a tie game, or Vegas is even trailing and you need some offense, you're going to look to Shea Theodore and Alec Martinez to try to get some points on the board. And that said, what we saw from Nick Holden and Zach Whitecloud, very reliable. I mean, those guys were getting more minutes in pressure situations than we might have anticipated. And the minutes for Zach Whitecloud just kept increasing, and Nick Holden seemed to be a really good compliment for him. And we don't want to forget about Derek Englund, John Merrill. Obviously, Nick Hagan spent a lot of time in the NHL this season. So there are plenty of options there for Pete DeBoer after you go beyond the top couple of pairs.
With the players back on the ice, we go to Rink A and the next-gen practice camp. Pete DeBoer at the whiteboard, diagramming a drill. They'll go through a couple of different scenarios, and then we expect a scrimmage as we continue here on day 3 of Phase 3, the Return to Play plan and Training Camp 2.0. We'll let you eavesdrop and just take in a bit more of this practice like you were sitting here in City National Arena.
We're back for the training camp bulletin, rolling along on this July 15th, and you are looking live at the Next Gen practice cam. The Vegas Golden Knights are on the ice, and they are scrimmaging against each other. This is actual hockey. This is live. This is not a replay. It's really hockey. And we will do our best to try some play-by-play here of the Golden Knights inner squad. So you've got a gray team and a white team, and we'll try to first tell you who's on which team. That's part of the deal, right? Robin Lehner is the goalie you see right there. He's the goalie for the gray team. Oscar Dansk across the way, he's the goalie for the white team. The lines for the white team, Jonathan Marchessault, Paul Stastny, Riley Smith. Second line is Will Carrier, Nick Cousins, Ryan Reeves. Third line, Gage Quinney, Tomas Nosek, Keegan Colasar. 3 D pairs for the white team, Alec Martinez, Shea Theodore. Next pair is John Merrill and Derek Englund. And the third pair is Dylan Coghlan and Jimmy Schultz. There's the white team across the way. And there's the gray team, and you see the top line for the Knights, Max Pacioretty, Will Karlsson, Mark Stone. The line on the ice with McNabb and Schmidt, the defensemen. Other lines for the gray team, Alex Tuck, Chandler Stevenson, Nick Waugh. And the last line, Peyton Krebs, Patrick Brown, and Reed Duke. The other D pairs for the gray team, Nick Hague and Jake Bischoff. And then the last pair, Nick Holden and Zach Whitecloud. As Robin Lehner covers it up and has a whistle, and the gray team will have a defensive zone face-off. And you've got, again, Mark Stone's line stays on with Karlsson and Pacioretty, Schmidt and McNabb, the defensemen. So for the white team, Stastny, Smith, and Marchessault, Merrill and Englund, the defensemen. It's McNabb to pull it out and starts to center. There goes Mark Stone through center and puts it down into the left corner. Smith and Marchessault with some puck support from Derek Englund to turn it out towards center. The saucer pass connects through the neutral zone. It's a drop pass on the left wing, and a Marchessault shot is saved by Robin Lehner. Well, it's been a while since we had a chance to do any play-by-play. That was fun. Maybe we'll continue here, as both sides will change up the lines as Tomas Nosek's line comes on for the white team. Nosek with Keegan Colasar and Gage Quinney. Quinney number 72, Colasar number 55. And then you see Nick Holden going behind the gray team's net for Zach Whitecloud. Forwards for the gray team, Nick Waugh, Chandler Stevenson, and Alex Tuck. And Holden the rink-wide pass. The gray team into the zone. Waugh with Stevenson near the right corner. Jimmy Schultz to poke it away and out to center for the white team. A little trouble for Quinney coming across the line. Nick Waugh tries to pull it out. And from the half wall, it got through Holden out at the left point, and back it goes towards the gray team's defensive zone. No scoring here in what is an untimed scrimmage. There's no clock running at City National Arena. Here 10 minutes past 11 o'clock on Wednesday, July 15th. There's Oscar Dansk. He's yet to face a shot here in the scrimmage. Reeves ahead with Cousins and Carrier. Well, you think about Nick Cousins, who only played a handful of games with the Golden Knights, but has found himself, it appears, on this fourth line in a normal game situation. You'd expect it to be that line with Carrier and Reeves and Cousins at center. Cousins had been with the Montreal Canadiens organization. Peyton Krebs makes the pass as he goes to the bench. Here's Nick Cousins stepping into the zone. And, a collision at the line. Riley Smith sent head over heels. How about Riley Smith in the year that he had been having? It's interesting because had the season continued, Riley Smith was on pace for career highs in goals, assists, and points. But, of course, didn't quite get the chance to complete 82 games, but he did appear in all 71 for the Golden Knights. Riley Smith ended up with 27 goals, 27 assists, 54 points in 71 games. And if you extrapolate that through 82 games, it would have been would have been 31-31. 62 points would be a career high. So we'll have to settle for some postseason production. Here's Stastny ahead, and he'll dump it on down for the white team, and Nate Schmidt goes back alongside Braden McNabb. Trying the breakout on the left wing. And an interception in the high slot. Little puck luck for the white team to keep it in the zone. John Merrill and Riley Smith getting it back down low. Stastny near the left corner. Marchessault back out high for England, shooting. That got the glass. It ends up on the far boards. Still in the zone for the white team, and it rolls off the stick of Marchessault and back out to center. Stone plays it ahead, and the great team will try to keep it in the offensive end. They cannot, as both sides begin to change. No scoring here in the scrimmage. Great team against the white team. Leonard in goal for the great team. Dansk in goal for the white team. As Gage Quinney steps in with Tomasz Nosek and Keegan Colasar. Whitecloud and Holden play catch on defense. And out through center they go. Nick Waugh with Chandler Stevenson. Stevenson through the right circle. Knocked off of his stick by defenseman Jimmy Schultz wearing number 4. Puck pops into the air off the netting, and the whistle stops play. So again, the defensive pairs for the white team, Martinez and Theodore, Merrill and England, Schultz and Coughlin. Group you see on the ice right there. Haig and Bischoff, the defensemen for the great team now, and the forwards Reed Duke, Patrick Brown, and Peyton Krebs. Here comes Ryan Reeves up the right wing side, steps into the offensive zone. Reeves protects the puck. Haig the long reach, forcing play down into the corner. Duke reaching at the line, but kept by the white team. Carrier centering, knocked off the stick of Nick Cousins. And the battle down low near the corner. Bischoff pulled it free, and with some help up the boards, Reed Duke spins it out through the neutral zone and back toward the white team zone. Glad you've joined us here for Training Camp Bulletin. Looking at the next-gen practice camp. I'm Dan Duva. Darren Millard will be back with us in just a little bit. But for the time being, it's play-by-play of Vegas Golden Knights hockey. I can't even believe I just said that. Here's Nate Schmidt, drops it off for Pacioretty, tried to dangle through the right circle for the great team, but it comes out to the line. Pacioretty did keep that in. They don't have NHL caliber linesmen or referees here. Ryan Craig has got the whistle in his mouth. He's going to try to whistle it down if there's an offside. That puck does come out to the neutral zone. McNabb will have to back it up. As the great team brings it back in, here's Nick Watt to the slot, and his shot ends up wide right. Oscar Dansk watching that one into the corner. Watt sets it up. There's a shot at close range. That one deflects out of play with Will Carlson on the doorstep. So you're looking at live play-by-play of a Golden Knights scrimmage. And you're looking at lines that we very well may see come July 30th when the Golden Knights play their first and only exhibition game against the Arizona Coyotes. And then it's the Dallas Stars on August 3rd, which will be the first of the round-robin games for the Knights. Vegas will play Dallas, Colorado, and St. Louis. And depending on who comes out of that round-robin with the most points, that will determine the top seed and seeding for the top 4 clubs in the Western Conference. So this is the first scrimmage action we are seeing here in day 3 of phase 3. There's Keegan Colasar for the white team. That puck ends up over the railing and out of play. And it looks like they're going to change things up again here. So again, trying to give you a sense of who's playing with who. No surprises, really. Pacioretty, Carlson, and Stone on the gray team as the top line. And here you're seeing a depth line. Peyton Krebs, Patrick Brown, and Reed Duke for the gray team. Haig and Bischoff on defense. That was close to a high stick for Nick Haig. Who's the referee out there? Nick Cousins appeared to get Haig's stick in the face. Here's Cousins in the neutral zone. And the lefty drops it on back for defenseman Derek Englund, who's paired with John Merrill. Little push from Cousins. And across to the right, Englund towards the goal. Stick down, a scramble. Leonard keeps his ground, and the great team has possession. Peyton Krebs, the 19-year-old from just outside of Calgary, but comes across the line and whistles stop play. No scoring so far in the scrimmage. We're just over 10 minutes into the scrimmage. And you can only imagine what's going through the minds of these players who are experiencing 5-on-5 game-type hockey for the first time. And it looks like Ryan Craig has the whiteboard out. And we'll see what they work on here. We talked about it before. There's a certain sense of wanting to follow what the coaches have laid out, the structure, breakout strategies, assignments, etc. But there's another point where you're thinking, boy, just to be on the ice, skate, shoot, score. Can you imagine what this will look like when somebody scores here in a moment or two? We hope at some point. Perhaps Ryan McGill will have the he's got some magic in that marker, I think. So at the other end of the ice, power play unit, it appears, will be starting some work. So when they started the practice today, they were utilizing both sheets of ice. And then with a scrape of the ice here, they brought the entire team together. So you're talking 6 forward lines and another 6 defensive pairs plus 2 goalies. That's a lot of guys on the ice for one practice, which is why you can have a pretty good scrimmage and, of course, 1 goalie for each side. So they've got, looks like, some power play stuff that they're going to work on now. Well, that was fun. Too bad there was not a goal during the scrimmage portion of the practice. But that was really something. I hope you enjoyed that. I sure did. Managed to scribble down the lines so I could tell you what's going on. There's normally a lot more information on these cards than there is right now. But I'll tell you what, there's something to be said for chemistry, but there's also something to be said for just the feel, being around the teammates, and what you're looking at now in the last few days here. There's no more small groups. It's not guys practicing on their own. There's the structure of the coaching staff. Here's what we want you to do. This is what we're thinking. This is what we're going to show you. And then to put it into practice with these scrimmages. Who will stand out? We heard Pete DeBoer talk about Peyton Krebs, Kelly McCrimmon talking about Peyton Krebs as well. And again, just given how the lineup is slated right now, I don't think that there is an expectation that Krebs will play, but he's here. And that has to be an interesting choice. I can only imagine the discussion for the management to include Peyton Krebs in this scenario. But remember, he was the first-round draft pick for the Golden Knights, a 17th overall, just over a year ago. It was June of last year. And, of course, there has yet to be a 2020 draft, so Peyton Krebs is the most recent Vegas Golden Knights draft pick. And if you're wondering about the draft, by the way, that will be at the conclusion of the playoffs. So it's October 9th and 10th. And Vegas has 5 picks in this year's draft, 1 first-round pick, 0 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and then a pick in round 6 and a pick in round 7. So Vegas will have a pick in the first round. Their pick is 25 in this year's first round. Of course, we mentioned the first-round pick that was Peyton Krebs, 17th overall out of the WHL. Cody Glass was the Golden Knights' first-round pick. He was 6th overall back in 2017. And unfortunately, Cody Glass not available for the Golden Knights during this tournament, but in order to get healthy so that when the 2021 season begins, Cody Glass can be 100% healthy. I'm sure the Golden Knights are hoping. So again, you are looking at the Golden Knights practicing here on day 3 of Phase 3. It's the Training Camp Bulletin. We're going to be continuing this for all of the practices and hopefully more scrimmages as the days unfold. The schedule is day to day. They do have a schedule laid out, but we know from just the first few days there's the potential of changes, adjustments. So when they say schedule subject to change, They really do mean it. That's not just a disclaimer. There very well could be changes in the schedule. But rest assured, we will be here on the air with all of these training camp bulletins and our very special next-gen practice cam so you can watch the Golden Knights practice here during Phase 3. We've got more coming, too. We've got an SLGND podcast coming up. We're going to be recording one of those later today. There's also going to be another installment of radio replays tonight on our flagship radio station. Today you'll be able to listen to the Golden Knights playing one of those exciting games from this season. It was the overtime thriller in Nashville from way back in the fall. So that's coming up on our radio affiliates at 6 o'clock today. The full schedule, of course, is online at vegasgoldenknights.com. So we roll along. We thank you for tuning in. This has been a fun broadcast. So we'll look around and keep looking for more hockey. Stay with us.